Welcome, beloved, to A Mystic in Christ. This podcast is here to help you remember yourself as one beloved of God. Each word is offered to help you feel how deeply seen, held, and chosen you truly are. Because in reality, nothing stands between you and the presence of love. Only a thin veil of forgetting. May these moments together be a bridge to remembrance, lifting the veil and carrying you home into the arms of love you never left. I'm your host, Neriya, and together we listen for what love wants to say. So let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to A Mystic in Christ, where intimacy is a pathway to the divine. Come, beloved, and listen close. Please, Lord, love me passionately. Love me often. Love me long. Your love is the key to me. And the more passionately you love me, the purer I become. The more you love me, the more beautiful I become in my thoughts. And the longer you love me, the holier I become while living on this earth. These are the words of medieval mystic Mechthild of Magdeburg, a woman who lived in the 13th century Germany, a woman who spoke to God not only as her Lord, but as her lover too. Now, for many of us today, language like that can feel a little surprising, perhaps even a little uncomfortable, because in much of modern Christianity, desire has become something we don't know how to hold. It's either suppressed or pushed into the shadows. But yet, when we look at the great mystics of all traditions, we discover something very different. A language of intimacy, of spiritual longing, of union. A language that is deeply and unmistakably erotic. In Mechthild's writings, something remarkable happens. Because yes, her soul is longing for God. God actually responds to her. He says, I desired you before the world began, and I desire you now, as you desire me. It is my nature to love you often, for I am love itself. It is not just the human heart reaching for the divine, but the divine reaching back for us too. And this has been my experience too, and it startled me when I first encountered God like that. The desire etymologically comes from the Latin desiderare, meaning to long or to yearn. And in some religious and spiritual contexts, people even poetically trace its roots back to the stars. De from and Sidus, the stars. So you could say it's heavenly and holy. Longing becomes something cosmic, maybe even something that God Himself has planted into our souls as a lifeline back home. The early Christian theologian Saint Gregory of Nyssa wrote that desire itself is infinite because God is infinite. Your longing will never be exhausted because it's not pointing towards something finite. It's pointing toward God. And the mystics, they understood that. They knew that this longing is not a flaw in us, it's a movement towards union. And Yeshua once called it the homing instinct of God inside of us, what the Greeks called eros, the longing for beauty, for union, for holy fulfillment, is not in opposition to agape, God's divine, unconditional, all-encompassing love. It's actually fulfilled within it. One of the very early mystics to ever write about erotic love mysticism was Saint Bernard of Clairvaux. when he wrote sermons on the Song of Songs. In those sermons, he talks about the soul as a bride that is yearning for the beloved, waiting, longing to be kissed by God. He writes, when the bridegroom comes to the soul, he imparts such sweetness that she is drawn away from all earthly things. This is not a metaphor, it's revelation. He's pointing to something many mystics have experienced firsthand. I'm thinking of the Spanish mystic Saint Teresa of Ávila. She had a very intense religious experience where she describes it as an angel that looked like a seraphim coming to her and piercing her heart with a fiery dart. In her autobiography, she writes, the pain was so great, yet so surpassing was the sweetness, that I could not wish to be rid of it. Pain and sweetness, wound and ecstasy. Perhaps that is the holy paradox of divine love. You have to move through the pain to come to the sweetness. Her contemporary and confidant John of the Cross wrote equally beautiful, like stunning love poetry that speaks of the soul as a bride consumed by the living flame of love. It's like a fire that purifies, unites, and leaves nothing in us untouched. O living flame of love, that tenderly wounds my soul in its deepest center. In another poem, Christ responds to his beloved soul, saying, I took you tenderly in my arms. Again, here the bridegroom, or Christ, speaks of taking his bride, the soul or God's creation, into his arms to unite her with himself and to bring her back to the Father. And I can't help but keep getting this vision of Jesus' parable of the prodigal son and this image of like returning home and the Father just like rejoicing, welcoming us and like, yes, you're back finally. And I imagine this is how these mystics also experience that soul homecoming, that reuniting with God. And so recently somebody asked me, can a man experience this kind of mystical bridal relationship with Christ too? And the short answer is yes, because in mystical language, the soul is described as feminine. And as we have seen in John of the Cross's poetry, he surrendered to Christ, fell into his arms, like Meister Eckhart wrote, to God, we're all women. It's not about gender or biology. It's really about our capacity to completely open, surrender, and receive the beloved. When Christ pours his love light into the soul, it is like living water in a chalice shaped by time. We're just being filled up with the infinite. And how else would we experience that if not through our human vessels? We experience what the soul experiences in the body through our five senses. Like, this is why we're here. To that, the French philosopher and Christian mystic Simone Weil wrote, to reproach the mystics with loving God through the faculty of sexual love is like reproaching a painter for using color. Like, this is what we've been given by God to love, like these human vessels. So why would it be wrong to experience the divine in an erotic way too? As you can tell, this is like where history bridges the present tense, because this is not just what mystics wrote about in the Middle Ages. This is a current that is alive now. And something I've witnessed in others and also in my own experience over and over again. I have seen women and men also completely in rapture of the divine and experiencing that sort of union, not just in the mind or in the heart, but also as a full bodied, blissful experience. And yes, to some it also feels sexual, but not as something that comes from the outside, but really something that happens from within. And like that's the chorus I keep hearing again and again. It's like God is loving me from within. So for some, this feels like a sort of rapture. For others, it feels like throbbing ecstasy that leaves them forever changed. And yes, some people can also find that confusing at first because we've been taught that spirit and flesh are somehow separate, or that spirituality happens in the mind, or it's something in the heart. But the mystics never made that distinction. And this is the age of embodiment now. Like, really, we're meant to be here in this body. And Jesus keeps saying that to me again and again. You're not here to escape your humanity. You're not here to escape your body or to transcend. I want you to be fully here, incarnated in your human vessel, living as my beloved, and becoming like a lamp for the light of Christ, the light of love. And this is, I think, what we're all called to become, like living vessels for that divine light. I think this is where we're going. Becoming a vessel, where a place on earth where love is not just felt, but really embodied and carried, and where union becomes real. So it's no longer just an abstract theological concept, but actually a felt, lived experience in the body. I think this is what we're ultimately all craving, and without even knowing it, perhaps we're just going around with this inner ache or longing for something more, and we can't quite place it, and we're searching the world for it, and nothing really ever satisfies. What we're truly longing for at a soul level can only be filled by God, like that deepest longing. There's nothing that can ever really satisfy it elsewhere. And that kind of union with the divine in Eastern traditions, it's often described as this image, this metaphor of, well, you're like a drop of water, and then when you return to God, ideally while still being incarnated in this body, it's like the drop is returning to the ocean, becoming one with the ocean again. So your separate existence ends and you experience this complete oneness or union with all that is. But in Christian mystical language, it's actually the opposite. It's like the ocean pouring itself into the drop. It's like we're participating in that union by fully surrendering to the vastness of the ocean, pouring into our tiny vessels, and somehow letting it stretch us and expand us, and fully meeting us with love. I think this is what it means to be a beloved of the beloved. And Yeshua once told me in a moment of communion that he dreams of lovers, and he longs to make love to every soul that is open to receiving him. I was so triggered at first, but then I understood what he meant. It's not like a human person would say such a thing. It's really cosmic. It's like in the mystical poetry, it's like God loving his own creation, like love being love itself, making love to itself, and thus returning the soul home from its little adventures in time and space, back to union, back to eternity, back to the one that made us. So if you've ever felt that longing yourself, this pull from within your own heart and body, that desire for being more intimate with God, never shame yourself for that. That deepest heart's longing, it's not a weakness, it's a way home. Living in relationship with love itself is not just something from the past that some medieval monastics or mystics practiced in moments of rapture. It's really something that we are all invited to live and lean into in our day-to-day experience, in our present modern lives, to carry that into the world as vessels to bring joy and healing and blessing. I think that is really God's wish for us, and I think this is ultimately where we're all going collectively. If you ever experienced rapture or divine union, you're blessed. And even if it sometimes can feel like madness, and you're maybe wondering like what is going on with me, let me tell you, you're not going crazy. You're going home. And there's a world of difference between the two. It's not shameful, it's sacred. If this is something you'd like to explore more in community with others, and maybe just to have a container where you can process your experience or share, hear more, ask questions, you're invited to join us in Lovers of God. This is our members community, a sanctuary for your soul, a safe space where your shameless devotion can be explored freely, gently, with reverence, where your longing for the divine is not pathologized but honored, and where you can be seen and met and witnessed. So, this is really a space for connection and emotional and spiritual intimacy for our fellow modern mystics, spiritual seekers, lovers of the light, to come together and support each other and explore together. So, our first gathering is this Sunday, April 12th at noon Eastern Time, if you want to join us, and it's once a month. I'm going to leave a link for you in the show notes so you can find out everything you need to know and to join us live. So, until next time, may you trust the longing in your heart. May you allow love to meet you, not only in your thoughts, but in the depths of your body and your being. And may you remember always, you are deeply desired by the divine. So now, beloved, let these words seep like warm oil into the old wound that whispers too much or not enough. Remember, you are never alone. You are eternally held. And if this episode nourished you, please leave a review and subscribe. It helps this podcast grow and reach more hearts ready to remember love. If you wish to drink even deeper, join our community over on Substack for more intimate stories, love-drenched poetry, and sacred fire. You can find us at neriya.substack.com, and I'll also leave a link in the show notes for you. Until next time, may you remember your own sacredness. May you rest in the everlasting arms of love. And may you breathe as one beloved of God.